I mean, we're not Batman.
I'll just say I'm not Bruce Wayne. I'm not.
You
Bruce
definitely
Wayne.
are not.
Yeah.
You are definitely not. I've been to your house and you've been to mine. We are not Bruce Wayne in the financial aspect. Hello and welcome to another edition of Popcorn Bucket List. We're underwater this week.
We are underwater this week.
That was a new one there. I had an intro actually planned out here, but that just kind of threw me off.
We've got almost 2 inches of rain already.
This is true. So it's a wet one out there.
My socks and feet are just soaked.
I should have brought out the old swim trunks. But speaking of fashion statements, like I said, welcome to another edition of Popcorn Bucket List, the show that asks the question: the red sunglasses Jesse Plemons wears in Civil War. Do you think I could pull those off?
Yes.
Because that was the only thing I was thinking of during that entire scene. So if you know the scene and what I'm talking about, you'll know how messed up it is that
They are cool glasses, though.
I think I got a thumbs up from Carter up there. I'm gonna look in this camera. We're gonna Photoshop those sunglasses on me, and boom. Nope. Which camera? Okay, and boom, there we go. Did it work? Okay, I don't know. May have to buy those later. Might jump on Amazon. Anyways, this show's off to a great start here today. All right, opening spotlight. Let's just go right into it here. Vampire movies. This is another one I had to double check. Make sure we hadn't already covered, but I believe we haven't.
Yeah, I don't think we've talked.
Abigail premiering this weekend here, so seemed like perfect time to bring up vampires. I just want to say on a personal note, as far as vampires, I actually think these are one of the scarier, if not the scariest movie monster kind of subspecies, whatever you want to call it. Like I've never really been afraid of zombies. Mm-hmm. I feel like I've discussed this before. Like in this day and age, there's just so many guns. Like there's no way zombies would be a threat.
Yeah.
Frankenstein, he's just a misunderstood guy.
Frankenstein's monster.
You're correct. Yep. Thank you for correcting me on that. Yeah, he's just a misunderstood dude, you know.
Like Andre the Giant.
But like Andre the Giant. Although, I mean,
you could understand what you can kind of understand what he's saying.
Yeah. No disrespect to Mr. Giant.
No, he's awesome.
But awesome. Vampires are actually scary because they kind of look the most like humans. Mm-hmm. They're like the perfect hunters.
Yeah.
They disrupt the order of the food chain. And depending on which version, they like have varying versions of superpowers. But even like the weakest, like just generic vampires are like scary hunters.
Yes.
So like I'm actually like interested in vampire movies, and like I find more fear in those. Mm-hmm. Now I feel like they took a step back in credibility when the Twilight movies came out and everything. Yes. But I'm hoping this movie will kind of point us back in the right direction and get them the proper respect they deserve. So we're going to talk some vampire movies here. No real criteria. I don't know. It just was let's just talk about 3 of each. This isn't in any particular order, at least. No like subgenres or anything like that. Just 3 we're thinking about. And I want to kind of kick us off here on one. I talked to you about this last night. I don't know why I thought these were zombies, but yeah, looking back on it, that was just stupid on my part. But let's talk about the movie I Am Legend. This is essentially vampires, but in a horde of creatures, which is kind of the one thing zombies do have, is like they have the power of numbers. Mm-hmm. But here you have sort of vampires who are attacking. They only come out at night, sort of thing. And I think this is maybe where my fascination with the fear of vampires is, because they have all these powers, but they do have that weakness of daylight. And I do find it interesting when you have these overpowered kind of beings, and they do have that weakness. I mean, it's essentially Superman and everything like that. But I mean, this is one of Will Smith's best performances. If we're going to,
I agree with that. This film, when it came out, I loved it. I thought just the way it looked was great, and you're 100% right. Like, if you were to, like when we talked about yesterday, those were zombies. Like, that's what my mind thinks. Mm-hmm. Like, because you get that horde complex, not the individual, more sophisticated kind of, but almost like zombie vampires. Like they look dead, but they're vampires.
Mm-hmm.
So
yeah. So yeah, that's kind of the first one I want to talk about here, because again, I don't know why I only thought zombies, but yeah, I would consider, and if you Google it, I believe the original novel that it was based off, they reference them as vampires.
Okay.
So yeah, I don't know why I didn't pick up on that before, but I mean, yeah, you take the power of numbers of zombies, which is the only thing that's scary, and then you do that with vampires. Like, that is the ultimate, like, how is he lasted this long in this world? There's a reason why that movie is titled I Am Legend. Yeah. Because he took on this unbearable task and survived for how many years. So I hope they do a sequel. There's been talks for a while now.
Yeah, and I'd
love to see a follow-up.
They might have to wait a couple of years.
Do they? Will Smith was at Coachella like yesterday, and apparently we're like okay with it, I guess.
It's all good.
We're okay with it, but like the article I read was like, Will Smith made a public appearance 2 years after Oscar slap at Coachella. So it's kind of like we're okay with it. There. We're okay with it, but we're still remembering. Yeah, we're not gonna forget anytime soon, I guess.
That's awesome.
I don't know. It's weird where we stand with Will Smith now.
Yeah.
What about you? What's the one you want to talk about here?
One that kind of brings me to my childhood. Shout out to Ryan Cunningham if he's out here watching this. But I first watched the movie Blade at his house, and it was awesome. I'd never seen anything like that before. It was a vampire hunter played by Wesley Snipes. And Wesley Snipes, back in the, what year was this? Like,
I think it was year 1999 or 2000.
I was going to say late 90s, early 2000 on VHS. Like, it was awesome. It was cool. It was early introduction to, because I didn't know Blade was a superhero when I watched it. I didn't think it was, I thought it was just a random movie. But no, I really enjoyed it. Wesley Snipes is a powerful performance in the Blade movies. I really like him in there. Suits him well. The action was great. The nastiness of vampires, you can see that in this version of vampires. And he's a vampire hunter, so he just hunts them down and kills them. And he gets to do all the cool stabbing them with like the not wooden cross,
the silver spike.
Yeah, silver spike.
I know silver's Wolverine's, isn't it? I feel like it's wooden stakes.
It's wooden stakes.
But but is it in this version that they give, because they give him a sword?
And I think it's got the silver.
I mean, you don't get the name Blade without doing a little bit of sword play.
Yeah. So that's one of my favorite ones watching when I was a kid. Absolutely.
That's like if I got caught. That's like if I would. Yeah. If Blade didn't have a sword, that'd be like if my nickname was Gunner, but my main thing was like nunchucks. Yeah. It just wouldn't make sense. It just wouldn't make sense. It's cooler that way. It's for sure cooler that way.
Like if we called Hawkeye, we called like if it,
but
we called him something different, like Sniper.
I mean, that'd actually be more accurate than Hawkeye. Yeah, I feel like maybe I don't know.
Moving on.
Yeah, moving on here. The other one I want to talk about here is a little bit more of a comedy. The I Am Legend was a little bit more serious with a few comedic moments. What We Do in the Shadows. This was early Taika Waititi.
Yes.
I believe he's in it as well. I think he wrote, direct. He does a lot of his own stuff. This would later spin off into a TV series, mockumentary series. Mm-hmm. Very funny. This takes the world of werewolves and vampires and all that existing in this world, but like making fun of it and everything like that, and like putting these people, these like ancient traditions and all that into this like modern society, and it doesn't work, but it works in a hilarious way. Like I'm going to talk a little bit more about the TV series, I guess, here, but it pretty much is all the same humor is in the movie. But in like the first season, they're like tasked with, they left like Transylvania like centuries ago to go conquer America, and now it's like modern day and they still haven't done it. And so they're like, well, shoot, we got to conquer America. How do we do that? I was like, well, there's a city council meeting. I think we got to start there. So you literally got this guy in this full like Dracula outfit, and like you've covered city council for us. Like picture that, like grainy, distant angled video, but like guy up to the podium being like, yep, we're here to take you over now. And like it's the same sort of like, I mean, you still have these vampires who have these powers who are like great hunters, but it's again a comedic setting. Yeah. So you kind of have two sides of two sides of the coin there in a perfect blend, I feel like. So yeah, I had to mention one that was like a comedic one, and What We Do in the Shadows is a great movie, great TV series. They got some pretty random cameos in the TV series too, including Taika Waititi. He comes back and returns with like Tilda Swinton. Yeah, who may actually be a real life vampire. I don't know. We never know. All right, what's another one you want to talk about here?
I'm gonna go back to Quentin Tarantino classic from Dusk Till Dawn, or maybe it's just Dusk Till Dawn. But yeah, it stars a family that they end up in this bar, and roadside bar, and it turns out that they are vampires, and it's great comedy. It's hilarious action. It's all kind of that over the top what Quentin Tarantino's kind of known for. This was his earlier days, and he actually acts in this movie, and it's kind of funny because he's a decent actor, but he kind of like, I don't want to say like spoofs himself, but like he's having fun.
He unintentionally spoofs himself before he even realized there was something to be spoofed there, if that makes sense.
And it's also got one of my favorite actors of all time, Danny Trejo. He's just an awesome actor. And you get the blood and the violence and the Brad Pitt, or not
George Clooney.
George Clooney, excuse me.
They get easily confused.
Yeah. Well, especially like George Clooney back then to kind of like Brad Pitt now. Like the age, it's good. But yeah, I would definitely recommend that one. It's a fun ride. It's a good time.
Speaking of a fun ride, good time, I redacted my third one here.
Oh, okay.
Because I wanted to make sure I wanted to get your genuine reaction to me sort of recommending this one here. I have talked about many times before in this show, whenever a movie does like something historical, I wish for it to be accurate. Mm-hmm. That's not entirely true. You either do it 100 as accurate as you possibly can, or you go full hard in the other direction.
Yep.
I'm talking about Abraham Lincoln Vampire Slayer.
Okay.
Because as much as Abraham Lincoln is kind of a cool dude as a politician, the fact that he's got an accent is just chopping down vampires in wartime is just awesome to me. I love it when movies take historical events and go full hard, like, okay, obviously this didn't happen, but we're reshaping it our own way. Speaking of Quentin Tarantino, he's very well known of doing that.
Yep.
Like he takes historical events and rewarps them so much so that it's like clearly he's not saying this is what we think happened, or how he's clearly not saying you should interpret this as truth. Mm-hmm. You should be able to be smart enough to know this is fake. Yep. Nobody went into Abraham Lincoln. I hope nobody went into Abraham Lincoln Vampire Slayer thinking this actually happened. Yeah. But it's got some really cool action, and it's just fun. All right, this is like the same thing as like when they did Pride, Prejudice, and Zombies. Mm-hmm. Like, there's absolutely no reason why those girls should be fighting zombies, but it's awesome.
It's
awesome to watch it happen. And like I said, the other thing that I like about this one, and this is the only way I would think a zombie movie would be scary. I can't believe nobody else has done this. But when you are in a old-timey like era, weapons aren't as effective, so that adds to the challenge for the monsters. Like, that's my big thing with zombies and everything like that, is the reason why they're not scary is because we have AK-47s that can mow them down, whatever. Yeah. But if you set a zombie apocalypse during like the Revolutionary War, we can only get one shot and it's not accurate as all. That's scary to me. Yeah. And that's the same thing here. Like, he's forced to use this specialized axe because that's the most effective weapon. But to fight them, you got to be up close now. And it adds to the danger. It adds to the stakes. Yeah. It makes you think, and also considering how this is sort of an alternate timeline, it's like, well, maybe Abe dies earlier than this. I mean, he doesn't. True. But he could have.
Yeah.
And if you don't have those stakes, especially in a monster movie, why should I care? If I don't think that your characters aren't going to die in this, why should I care?
Yeah.
So that's something I wish more and more horror and scary monster movies would do, is like put them a little bit more old-timey.
That's actually a really great point, Nick. I think that is...
Like if I were to do a zombie movie, I would not do it anytime pre-1900.
Yeah.
Or I would only do it pre-1900.
Yeah.
I kind of got it in my head there.
Yeah.
Reverse
that. No,
that
because you're right. With technology, I shouldn't say a lot, but there's a good amount of things that it's just not, it wouldn't be as scary. It wouldn't be as like right now, a bunch of zombies come in. Done.
Yeah.
Nothing. No problem.
I wouldn't be worried.
Yeah.
We'd figure it out. We have
all
so
you
many.
have is your scythe, and they're coming at you. Way different story.
Yeah, and it's your only option.
Yeah.
Like in The Walking Dead, I found it interesting. Like at first they start with guns, and that's okay. But then they realize, okay, we have to kind of do these up close sword weapons because it makes less noise. So that's kind of them adapting to it. A little bit. But like those first like seasons, I was kind of like, should I be worried? They have like, how did this come to be?
Yeah.
This is the Deep South.
Yeah.
How did the zombie apocalypse get out of control here?
Yeah.
Anyways, that's
funny.
That's the end of my rant. But yeah, Abraham Lincoln Vampire Slayer, not the one you would think I would suggest in this, but if you're going to do a historical movie, you either go full accurate or you go hard right.
Yeah.
As far as I'm concerned. So, I don't know, take us away. What's the last vampire movie you want to talk about here?
And I'm actually going to have you double check me, but I'm going with the original Nosferatu from 1922, I believe. And it is a black and white horror film, silent film. I absolutely loved this film. It doesn't necessarily play into like it's not clear that he is like the stereotypical vampire. A lot of those tropes come from this film. The rising and sleeping in the coffin. There's a lot of things that just come from here, and it's not like portrayed as an over-the-top vampire. It's just, this is this guy, and he's creepy. But what I really loved about it is the way they play with shadows. Because especially in old, especially black and white, old silent films, the way they had to shoot things, because you could only get a few seconds at a time on a shot, and just how the budgeting, like how you make this like how you would make this studio look. It's a phenomenal film, and I absolutely love it. And they are, correct me if I'm wrong. Robert Eggers is making the new Nosferatu,
so that's what you wanted me to double check on, because you're right. The original was 1922, and while I look this up, this is kind of what I talked. Yes, it is Robert Eggers. He is writing and directing. So Aaron Taylor Johnson, Bill Skarsgård, William Dafoe. That's gonna be insane. That's gonna be fun.
So excited for this movie.
But yeah, you bring up this is an early Dracula without all of the tropes and everything. And this is kind of what I was talking about earlier on, which is like even at the simplest of vampires with like very little powers, they are scarier to me than like any zombie or Frankenstein monster or anything like that, because they're just a hunter, and that's all they're doing, and their abilities are tailor-made to be the perfect hunter.
Yeah.
Whether they like it or not, whether they want to or not, that's just how they're built.
That's just how they're made.
Yeah. So, Nosferatu, great callback. Great, like you said, established a lot of that, like what was in What We Do in the Shadows.
Oh,
like the sleeping in the coffin.
100%.
Like a lot of that is pulling from that. Whereas I feel like these other ones kind of went their own route, which is fine. I mean, if you're going to do a horror genre for over 100 years, you got to adapt. You got to change it up a little bit. You
got to keep some, but you also, but like it's very, when you think of vampires, you think of maybe two teeth, like Christopher Lee's vampire have the two teeth. You think of the cape with the, what's it called? Right here?
Yeah, I know what you're talking about, but I can't think of it either.
One of these?
It's like a collar.
Yeah. You think of that, you think very
let
pasty.
Us know what that is if you know what we're talking about.
And also,
here.
like bats, I hate bats, and that just scares me.
I can't say I'm the biggest fan of bats either.
Yeah, I'm not a big fan of bats.
But we're both big fans of Batman.
True.
But he's not a big fan of bats either. I guess that's kind of the point.
So maybe we are Batman.
I mean, we're not Batman?
I'll just say I'm not Bruce Wayne. I'm not
You
Bruce
definitely
Wayne.
are not.
Yeah.
You are definitely not. I've been to your house and you've been to mine. We are not Bruce Wayne in the financial aspect. Hey, we talk a lot about movies on this channel, but sometimes the ones we talk about aren't the most accessible. That's where the Marshall-Lyon County Library comes in handy. They have a great collection of physical media, as well as a couple of online services with many options for movies, TV shows, and documentaries. It's easy. Just get your own library card at the Marshall-Lyon County Library and gain access to their large variety of movies, TV shows, and of course, books. Also, be sure to check back every month as we here at Popcorn Bucket List make specific movie recommendations based on a monthly theme. So head on over to the Marshall-Lyon County Library for some of our favorites and check out the channel to get even more movie recommendations. And now, on with the show! But with that, let's continue our vampire discussion here with the weekly preview. Like I said, one of the big ticket items, Abigail, coming out to theaters Friday, April 19th. Before I really get into describing this movie here, I just got to say, I didn't really see any marketing for this for the longest time.
Yes.
Until like just recently. And then finally I did see the trailer, and having no context going into it, this takes talk about a right turn, takes a definite hard right turn here, and I'm kind of for it, but let's talk a little bit about the movie. A group of criminals are tasked with kidnapping a crime boss's daughter for ransom, but they soon find out she's not trapped in there with them. They're trapped in there with her, to quote Watchmen, basically. Yep. One of my favorite lines. I don't like that Zack Snyder movie too much, but that's one of my favorite lines right there. Yeah, it turns out the daughter's a vampire. So that just happened, I guess.
Yeah, the very first trailer I saw, which was maybe a month or two ago, it really played off the vampire stuff until the very, very end. And obviously now the new trailers and teasers are a lot more kind of vampire focused. Mm-hmm. But halfway through, I was like, in my head, I was like, wait, something bad's going to happen. They're not going to be able to get out. And then it kind of like played out through the trailer.
You definitely think it's going to be an entirely different movie until the girl starts like smiling and is just like, literally, I think she literally does say the sign like, or say the line like, yeah, I'm not trapped in here. This was all part of the plan or something like that.
Yeah.
No, actually the first turn is when she's like the one, kidnapper is like trying to comfort her and is like trying to say like, look, I mean, you're probably not going to get hurt. We're just after your dad, whatever. And the girl just starts smiling and is like, I'm really sorry about what's about to happen to you. Like you could tell she has a little bit of remorse, not enough to stop her from killing her, but enough to be like, look, I'm going to feel bad about this one, but girl's got to eat.
And that's where you don't know. It's like, oh, is she feel bad for them because her dad's going to do something or because she's going to do something?
Yeah, you're right. Even at that point, you don't know it's a supernatural thing. It's like, oh, he's going to come with a vengeance.
Yeah.
Or something like that. But who's all in this movie? Just a couple of people I noticed here. Catherine Newton. She's been having a pretty good year, I would say, already with Lisa Frankenstein and other projects. Melissa Barrera. I don't think I pronounced that right, but she was in the Scream movies, I believe. Kevin Durant. Been a while since we've seen him, I feel like.
Yeah. Yep.
And one of the dudes, one of the best guys out there to introduce a villain, Giancarlo Esposito.
Yeah.
If you need a guy to set up a conflict and set up a final boss, it's Giancarlo Esposito. He did it in Mandalorian. He did it, I'm pretty sure, in Breaking Bad. Yep. He did it in The Boys.
Yep.
And he's doing it here.
Yeah. He's a good bad guy.
You need a guy to set the stage.
Yeah.
You call Esposito right there. Side note, the violent kid who does end up being the ballerina vampire, same kid who played Matilda in Matilda the Musical.
Oh, really?
That's what I read.
That's where she. Yep.
She
looked familiar, and that's where. Yep.
That's where you probably saw her. Well, I mean, I guess you get work wherever you can.
Yep.
I guess, I do have one concern for this movie, just based on, I think it was the second trailer I noticed it more than the first one. The story and the premise of this is very scary to me. Like I kind of established earlier, there's something about vampires that I am a little unsettled by. Like I can really get into like, okay, this is a scary setting, and this is a serious setting of survival and all that. But the dialogue in the script seems to almost be going a different route. Mm-hmm. This may have been the actors improvising a little too much, but I felt like in the second trailer, there was a lot more of just what you would see in a spoof vampire movie.
Yeah.
Where they're just like, well, I guess she's a vampire. And the one guy like practically like looks at the camera. Like it's almost like a Jerry Seinfeld moment. It's like, what's the deal with this little girl? I guess she's a vampire. Jerry, what are you talking about?
It's going to be interesting to how they cut that line.
Yeah.
Is it going to cross over too much? Is it going to be right at that line and good?
And that's what I'm worried about, though, is because, like, you shouldn't be joking about this.
Yeah.
If the movie from the get-go was like trying to go a little bit more jokey, then yeah, it works. But like you set up so much of this like crime boss kidnapping a little girl's a vampire.
Yeah.
All of a sudden now we're joking about it.
Yeah.
Like you were all serious up until that moment. But then the moment when it's like you need to be serious, I guess we're all just quipping.
Yep. Yeah.
And you can almost you can't blame Catherine Newton because she came from MCU. Maybe she's just still got that MCU with her. Just like, well, we're allowed to quip over there. So I'm going to do that here. But that's my only concern about this. The action looks good. The setting looks great and scary and all that. It's just the dialogue. I'm really worried about the dialogue.
Yep.
And I'm hoping I'm wrong. I'm hoping it's just those few characters and they get killed off early on. If that happens, I'd be good.
Then we're all right.
We're good. I'll be fine. I'll give him forgiveness here. But any final thoughts before we move on to the next one here?
No, I think that's about it.
All right. Yeah. Like I said, I'm looking forward to that one. Another one that I'm looking forward to here, pretty good week in April here, I'd say. I feel like it's been a little slower April, considering how this is kind of the pre-party to the summer movie months. But I think this weekend's going to be a good one. The Ministry of Ungentlemanly Warfare. Try saying that one 5 times fast.
Can't say it once.
Yeah, I know. I could barely get through that one time. Director Guy Ritchie coming back to another movie set in World War II. This one tells the story of what is essentially the very first Black Ops covert mission. Mm-hmm. And I was thinking about this because this was kind of crazy to me how it was like World War II was like the first time this happened. But when you think about it, warfare for the longest time was let's get more men than they do and just charge.
Yeah.
And that was kind of the strategy.
That's how it was.
All the way up until World War I, it was still the strategy of just, look, let's just get as many guys together and just charge and just hope it works. Because you see the battle of the trenches and all that.
Yeah.
Spoiler alert, it didn't work. So I guess they decided to kind of shake things up with this one here and finally decided to come up with a covert ops team to kind of sneak in and sort of shake things up here a little bit. Cause some mayhem, exactly. Henry Cavill coming into this one here. There's just some actors you love to see having a good time, and Henry Cavill's one of them.
Yeah, I really like Henry Cavill, and I think this film looks like he had a lot of fun filming it, and when you have fun doing what you're doing, the film usually turns out great.
Because even if the movie itself isn't great, the audience relates to the character more and is like, they're having fun. I'm having fun watching them have fun. And then you kind of forgive the fact that the movie isn't good.
Yep.
So that's always a strong plus. I just find it crazy. It's crazy to me that Henry Cavill seems to be having more fun post-Superman. And usually it's the opposite. Usually you play Superman to have fun and be the hero, and then you go and do serious roles. Yeah. Here he went to do Superman, and it was Debbie Downer. And now he's left Superman, and it looks like the dude's having the time of his life.
He's having a great time.
The guy could not be doing better for himself right now.
Is there going to be any sort of reference or nod to the Kingsman?
Well, okay, so Guy Ritchie didn't do Kingsman. It was Matthew Vaughn.
Oh, yep,
but
that's right.
You had Henry Cavill in Argyle earlier this year that referenced Kingsman. What that actually meant, I still don't know. Yeah. It keeps me up at night.
Yeah.
This is the reason for my lack of sleep these days. I could still see there being some sort of because that other Kingsman movie, I know that was World War I. That prequel was World War I, wasn't it?
I don't remember off the top of my head.
I think it was.
Yeah, but you could still have
Yeah, you could still do it. World War I, World War II, it all blends together.
Yeah, or right? I just imagine them walking by some like suit shop.
Yeah.
And it's like, the Kingsman suits or something. Yeah. And then it's like, there it is.
There's almost got to be something. If not that, then another Guy Ritchie film or something like that. But also in this movie, Henry Golding, Isa Gonzalez, and he's back again. Alan Richardson.
Dog.
Dude's having, we talked about Catherine Newton having a year. Alan Richardson is having a year now. He's exploding on the screen. But speaking of explosions, yeah, that was pretty good. You're going to like this segue here. Rebel Moon Part 2 coming to Netflix. This is the continuation of the space epic from Zack Snyder. A lot of the cast from the first one, I believe, is returning to this one, including but not limited to Sofia Boutella, who was in The Kingsman, the very first one. I think that's the first time I saw her. And I still feel like she's still an underrated action star. I feel like she still hasn't gotten the credit she deserves because she kicks butt and she's a pretty good actor. And she's been in some really bad movies, but darn it if she isn't trying her best in them.
Yeah.
Like The Mummy, I feel like she knew it was bad, but she's like, I'm still going to do my best because I'm a gosh darn professional.
And that makes me so mad because I would have loved a Universal movie monsters universe. I would have loved that. And it's still kind of in the shadows, but I don't think it's. I mean, original.
They did The Invisible Man, which was good.
Yeah,
which was really, really good. So, if anything, that's going to maybe kick off some other new wave here of the dark universe. And I'd love to see her back at it again because again, like I said, she's been in bad ones, but she's great in them. Hotel Artemis. I don't know if you ever saw that one. Not a great movie, but she's good in it.
Yeah.
So I feel like she still is due a little bit more respect. So hopefully this one kind of continues that here. Basically this movie, in case you don't remember when we previewed Rebel Moon Part 1, I mean, it's Zack Snyder wanting to do a Star Wars.
Yep.
And that's all it is. And more power to him. I want to do a Star Wars one of these days.
Is this going to be a trilogy or is it just 2?
Originally, they made it sound like it was only going to be 2, but I was curious about that myself, and they are in talks of doing a third one. I don't know if it's specifically they're going to, like, end the story with 3. It's just going to kind of be one of those, like, if Netflix continues to pay, and if we continue to come up with stories,
we're going to do it.
We're going to keep doing it.
Yeah.
So, like I said, I've pretty much said everything I've had to say about Zack Snyder. I don't wish to say any more and get myself into more of a deeper hole. But if you enjoyed the first one, probably going to like this next one as well.
Yep.
But with that, it's time for some number 1 recommending here. I'll kick us off here this week. I have a feeling we're probably going to talk about the same one, though, however. Civil War. This is a movie that I thought was pretty good when I left it, but the more and more I thought about it and kind of talked about it with other people, I was like, the genius of this and what they were kind of going for kind of grew on me.
Yeah.
More and more and more. And so as I was kind of talking to a friend of ours, Mitch, not Reby, radio station Mitch, I was talking about some of the shots and everything, and he was in some of the thought behind all of those, just following this war photographer and everything like that. And you feel like you never really get their story. And it's crazy how close they are to the action. And it's crazy to me that never occurred to me before, because you look at the shots here in real life of people who take photographs of all the terrible things happening out there. And you're like, well, I mean, yeah, sure, zooms are pretty good these days. But, I mean, if you want an actual, genuine good shot, you got to be right there next to the guy getting shot at. Yeah. And, sure, they have their colored helmets. They have a thing on that says press on their jackets or whatever. The fact of the matter is you're still in the heart of a war zone.
Yeah.
And so if anything, this movie shouts out war photographers a little bit more. But what do you think?
And it's interesting because I approaching it with the same vein, like combat photography I've looked into as a possible job when I was younger. And I was fascinated by it. And this is a really good embodiment of that. And I also like they do a unique technique in there that I think is underutilized in the vast majority of movies, but when it's utilized correctly, like it was in this film, it's very powerful. I'm talking about the taking like a still frame with the camera. That is, when it's done correctly, like it is in this film, it looks awesome, and everything about it's great. And I think they did a very good job of keeping this very ambiguous with like the undertones, and I think you can go to this if you're going to the film expecting a left versus right civil war and what happened. That's not at all what it's about.
We even talked about this as we left. Like, they never even expressly say what started the Civil War here.
Yeah.
We don't know if there is a left or right Or maybe there was always 3 parties that were always competing in this particular universe. The fact of the matter is the movie does a really good job of making you feel like it's a part of this world with giving you very little information.
Yeah.
And that is a very hard line to walk, making you feel like, oh, I kind of know what's happening, or I know enough about this world and this universe, but they didn't like hammer you with it. Like there was never a scene where they like sat down and was like, yep, I remember this day when this, and just goes into the whole flashback and the whole backstory and all that. Like there was never any of that. So I got to respect the film for doing that and keeping it ambiguous, because I think then everyone can relate to it and it's easier to get into the movie itself.
Yep.
But yeah, Civil War, I think was a really good time. I read was a record breaker for A24. This was the highest grossing movie they've produced.
That's awesome.
And highest grossing opening weekend that they've ever had. So
good. That's awesome.
Yeah.
I love what A24 is doing. I haven't seen all of their films. Some of them are absolutely fantastic. Some of them are not so good. But they are a company out there that's doing new things, pushing the boundaries, trying stuff different, not just mega million blockbuster hit after hit. It's they're letting directors do what they want to do. They're letting writers write what they want. So I really enjoy that, and I'm happy that they're continuing to grow. I remember, 8 years ago when we were talking about them for the first time, it was like, oh, these guys are. Who is this guys?
Yeah, they'd come out with like one movie a year.
Yeah,
and I do hope they don't kind of push it or stretch themselves too far here a little bit.
Yeah.
But I agree with you. They've been doing some good stuff.
Yeah.
That is going to do it for us here on this episode of Popcorn Bucket List. Check us out here next week. Don't really have anything to preview. I don't know, maybe. We're talking about some stuff. I don't know. It'll be a surprise. It'll be a surprise to me. It'll be a surprise to all of you out there as well. So for myself and Ryan Meyerberg, I'd like to thank you so much for watching, and we will see you at the movies.